Hey everyone, this is Georgia from Tippy.com. It's September 4th, 2011, and this is iPad Live. Joining us tonight is co-host of our mobile design podcast, Iterate, and the CIO of Nickelfish, Seth Clifford. How are you doing today, Seth?
Doing fine, Georgia. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're trying out this new music, audio, video thing. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting stuff. I see Renee put his big boy clothes on.
I'm Kesslering it, man. I'm Kesslering it.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to wipe my Let's see if that helps any. And also joining us is my co-host on iPhone Live, Zen and Tech TV, and 100,000 other podcasts, the managing editor of Tippy.com, Renee.
How's it going,
How are you
Georgia?
doing, Renee?
I'm doing great. I am so excited. I know Kevin Michalik, our astounding chief, is in the chat room, and he's excited too because this is history in the making, Georgia. Asterisk beta.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So if you're not joining us live, this is another reason to join us.
You're missing out. Should we tell them what we're doing?
Yeah, please.
We have a full-on video setup. I mean, right now we have 3 heads. We're switching shots. We've got lower thirds. It's glorious, man. We're gonna just replace CNN any minute now. I can feel it.
They'll be calling you up, Renee.
No, yeah, they'll be calling us up. Can we please be on your show?
Yeah, exactly that. So let's go through some of our meta. We had Mobile Nation 6, Size Matters.
Yes. And
I'm not
the
gonna
name of that, you can, because both Phil Nickinson and Daniel Rubino, the editors from Android Central and WP Central, respectively, they started whipping out these ginormous phones. I mean, I think Phil had a 5.5-inch phone just hanging out. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, that phone is like the size of a small tablet.
It's the size of a small child. I think his baby couldn't pick it up.
Exactly. Plus, we did a super functional 9, functional sleep.
That was actually in response to a question by none other than Seth Clifford, who was asking, how do you sleep better and more pain-free? And did he answer your question, Seth?
Honestly, it's in my queue. I'm actually going to be listening to it tomorrow, so I'm assuming that he's done a fine job of answering my question.
Exposed, busted, totally.
Yeah.
But it's good that at least it is there for when you need it, Seth.
Yeah, sleep is one of those things that obviously you guys have talked about it on Zen and Tech, how restorative it is and how important it is just for pure functional purposes. And sleep is also one of those things where if you don't have the right bed or the right pillow, then whatever time you're putting into it might not be working for you for your particular physical needs. So it was something that I was curious about. I asked Renee if he had any thoughts on it, and the fact that I got a whole show out of it, I'm just thrilled.
Such a
Yeah, we'll be
functionality
dealing
diva.
actually a little bit with that, some techniques that might help with that with today's Zen and Tech too, so you might want to check that out.
Stay tuned.
Renee, we have been giving out contests and just stuff left and right.
Yeah, actually, this is Kevin's fault because people were complaining that Crackberry did a weekly roundup of all their contests. So I was shamed into doing the same thing on Tippy. And, rightfully so. We should have been doing this for a while now. But every Saturday, we will have a list of the people who won the major contests. We give away far too many apps and things during the week to list everybody. But for the big apps, and especially for the accessories, like this week it was a Mophie Juice Pack Air. Last week it was an iPod Nano and some other stuff. Every week we'll have the last contest winners and the next contest that you can go enter because you could be the next winner.
Yeah, and the only way that you cannot win is if you don't play.
Yes, that's true.
Right, and we don't make you really jump through
Tippy.com/.
any. Go ahead, Renee.
Tippy.com/contests. Bookmark that URL. Just keep it right next to you. Check it every day.
Right, and we don't really make you jump through hoops. It's they're usually pretty simple, straightforward, and usually a lot of fun.
Yep. Although if you want to jump through hoops, hey, we'll put that up on video. No problem.
On to our iPad news. Apple has put out a new iPad commercial.
Yeah.
I
Are you
and
curious about new ideas? Do you want to learn a new language? Or just a new word? Maybe you want to know more about anatomy or astronomy. You could master something new or uncover a hidden talent. There's never been a better time to learn.
That's awesome.
Holy cow.
okay, wait, I just gotta say, that was so cool.
And
Seriously.
you know what? I should say huge thanks to Marcus, who is the big brains behind Smartphone Experts and Mobile Nations, for figuring all this out because, like myself, he was a video toaster fan, and this is bringing back all the goodness that we had from the old days. I am so happy. Thank you, Marcus
Right.
and Kevin.
Yeah, he did. That's really, really very cool.
If you're not watching the video, you just missed the actual commercial flying up and displaying and then, disappearing again so Georgia could remark on its lack of magicalness.
There's
But I
it
learned
adds so
something.
much context. It's great.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's I actually really enjoyed this commercial. It was straight, it was to the point, and it put up some really very cool applications that you can use. Yeah, which was very, very cool. The Star Walk, the astrology one,
is it,
absolutely awesome. They had a Chinagram to help you learn Chinese. They had Mobile Mim, and what was the chess one? It was T Chess Pro. So there are also some very cool applications that are in the commercials. So and how they can help you learn different things.
what I liked and what really impressed me, and this goes back to something that Seth wrote really nicely last time about his experience trying to get a Galaxy Pad, was this was not at all, again, nothing about how thin, how fast, nothing about the technology. It was just showing that Apple wanted to build this big glass window into the internet and into apps. And now they're showing you what people are doing with this, almost as if they're, as surprised as we are that a little kid can sit there and learn his Hanuma, and write out all his Chinese characters. It's almost like, curl up with a good movie. They take something that we know and they help bridge that to a new technology.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not going over people's head with, the stats, with Tegra 2, with the screen anymore. They're saying this is how it can make your life easier and make you smarter. Seth, do you think it's effective?
Oh, it's definitely effective. I mean, regular people that aren't really interested in hardware specs want to have experiences. They want to have emotional responses to the things that they're spending money on and doing. So to show them how easy it is and how quick it is to facilitate those kinds of experiences, I think is endlessly effective because it just, I mean, the App Store keeps growing and people aren't stopping at any point soon to, buying apps. So I think it's a very different position to take from it runs everything faster to look at these ways you can expand your life and for the purposes of this commercial, you're learning.
And it's so Kodak. I mean, it exactly what you said, Seth. Apple is deliberately marketing towards our nostalgia and our emotions. And you see the child touching the app, and it creates that emotional resonance that really no one else is attempting to market to right now.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's one of Apple's strong suits, is that they've always been able to, throughout the years, really speak to the regular person and what that person wants out of these machines. Like, these machines don't exist in a vacuum where we're all supposed to look at them and think of their potential and marvel in what we could do. What Apple really does is it shows people, here's what we have now, and here are the things we want you to do with them. And by the way, the door's open. You can do about a million other things. You don't have to look at it and think, that's a cool machine. It's like looking at a Ferrari and being like, boy, I bet that goes really fast, as opposed to getting in there and driving it and having that visceral experience of really being a part of that.
It can get you women. That's the message.
That would sell there. Now, you see, that might be actually a really good marketing ploy. No one has actually tried that. They haven't really used sex to sell tablets. That might be where they need to go. I did an article that pretty much talked about, what's happening with all of the tablet rivals, how the Galaxy Tab 7s have only sold probably around 20,000-ish. They're not keeping up to speed with where the iPad is going. Seth, what do you think that they can do to help them?
Well,
Like,
I
do you think
think
that it's the problem in the marketing, or do you think it's a problem in the hardware?
I think that there's definitely a problem in the marketing, because if you look at the commercials, like the one we always joke about, the Tegra 2 one, there's definitely a very different message there, and the message is, here we've given you this beefed up slab with all these things that you should care about, but the fact of the matter is most people don't care about that, and what they do care about is what they can do with the beefed up slab. And what Apple does is they say, here are the things you can do with it. The other problem, I think, is that the software experiences on those other tablets and the fluidity with which people can get, navigate them and get them from the market or from the App Store, it's very different, and it's kind of disjointed. And this gets back to some of the stuff we've talked about in the past, and some of the stuff I talked about in that post. How the iPad really makes it so seamless and so easy for people to get apps and interact with them. And with the Android market in particular, right now, some of the same experiences aren't there. So I think that it's really, the problem is twofold. It's creating cohesive experiences for people through the different pieces of software and through the operating system itself. And it's also the way that we're conveying that to consumers, and by we, I just mean the market. They're not really, one is not going to do it. You need both of those things. So even if they were able to get better apps, the message is still not there for people.
Well,
Right, and I think that that's one of the things that Apple really showed also in the commercial is just the software that they have. They showed some really amazing applications that they have, from and that they can't. No one else can really compete in that way. The App Store is just overflowing with some absolutely fabulous applications, which are probably the ones that were shown are probably going to go absolutely starfire after the commercials. And there's no one else that has an App Store either.
There's an interesting. Well, I mean, like they have app stores, but they have like 700.
Well, sorry, I mean
apps
like an app store that can compete with Apple's App Store.
But what's interesting is that Apple is competing on so many fronts. They're putting good technology into a really polished package that they're then selling at a very competitive price. And you can see how competitive it is, in some of the examples you have here, like on contract, the new HTC Jetstream is $699 on a 2-year contract. So, I mean, competitors are having a hard time meeting the price. And usually you have to be, in order to disrupt a market or to take significant share of a market, you have to be better in features and better in price against a leader who is as established as Apple. And there's or do something that they just won't do. And I mean, you joked about it, but that someone could try making a porn pad, but I don't think there's a big enough audience to really make that pay off. And I don't really know any other areas that Apple won't do that a competitor could take advantage of. And they've tried saying this has Flash, but just saying Flash is not enough. You have to show people how the lack of Flash impacts their life and how your Flash will help their life. The same way Apple doesn't show that they have a mechanical app store. They just show people using and gaining benefit from apps.
Yeah, and the important thing to remember, too, is right now iOS has the lion's share of developer interest for good reason, in that it absolutely dominates this market, the tablet market. It's a lot harder to create those kinds of compelling experiences on other platforms if you don't have the developers and those ideas on those platforms and willing to put in the effort to do that. And right now, the general feeling is that they don't see a need to go there because the iPad is just so dominant, and just the combination of software and hardware enables them even further to do the kinds of things they want to do in the way they want to do them, and not have to worry about all the different issues they might run into on, the myriad other tablets they'd have to code for.
Right. They can't really compete with... Sorry?
Our chat room is saying that I'm vastly underestimating the audience for a porn pad, but I meant the audience for a porn pad beyond what Apple already provides with mobile Safari, which has access to the internet.
You know what, though? If that would be one place where the tablet market could actually go, where Apple will not follow. So it's one place, because they cannot compete with the iPad in price for what you get. They can't really compete with ease of use as of now. And the amount of applications is now just such an insurmountable number to try to get ahead of with the amount that are sold. So,
and the quality of them.
And just like, again, the ease of use, especially the commercial that we just saw, that, you see kids being able to successfully use the iPad intuitively and not even have to worry about which manner in which they're going to do it. That's really very cool.
Yeah, and competing with a porn pad with kids showing how intuitively they can use it is just not what these companies can afford to go.
No, but I think that would be one of the few places I don't think that it would sell. Really, in the end, you want something that's going to work, and you probably have a computer, but yeah, I don't think that it's something that you would need to do. It's not like something you need to bring to work with you. So.
And you also said that they're cutting $150 off the price tag of a BlackBerry Playbook for the 64 gigabyte version, making it the same price as the lower version at Best Buy. Anyway, it's not a $99 touchpad fire sale, but it's an indicator that it's hard. They haven't maybe made the case as to why their tablet is worth more money than an iPad, or the same amount of money for what looks to a normal consumer to be a smaller tablet.
Right, and we also spoke about how the touchpads have sold out, and because of manufacturing issues, they're going to actually be making more, so that all of the companies that they already have made legal wranglings and that they've done, that they said that they would make a certain amount to certain companies and that they would be able to get that, so that they're going to end up making maybe some more. So those will probably sell out also for about the same price, but still they're selling them, I would assume, for close to a loss for that price at $99.
I'm sure it's a big loss. I'm sure it's a huge loss.
So I don't think that really counts.
Kevin is complaining, saying his touchpad is better than an iPad. But I think what this market shows is that you have to make the case to the market that you're better and have them adopt you to a greater extent. Otherwise, we've all seen great. I mean, let's just say the touchpad the touchpad or the Playbook or the Galaxy Tab was way better. You still have the Betamax VHS issue where there's other factors beyond being better technology, and it's arguable as to whether they even have better technology at this point.
Well, even if the technology is better, if it's not going to sell more and people aren't going to adopt it, then they're not going to have the same amount of developers that are going to deal with applications, and so the applications end up being weak, and so better actually ends up being worse, because you can't actually do what you want for on your tablet. Because in the end, if there's great games, people will buy something for an amazing game or buy something for an application that they want. And the fact that the iPad will definitely get most applications, most people that develop for a tablet will develop for an iPad, it's pretty much a safe bet.
And it's interesting is that Amazon is trying a totally different strategy. A word leaked out about Amazon's tablet, and if it can be believed, it's going to be 7 inches and actually be branded as a Kindle. So it won't really be so much as an iPad competitor, but as the next generation Kindle, which, though Amazon never discloses numbers, is assumed to be very successful. And I don't know if they're going to position it head to head, but that could be the first sign of someone actually, thinking like Apple, of not trying to copy what someone else is doing, but take a whole other line of attack, establish a whole other market, and then grow from there.
How can that be, though? I always you can get the Kindle application on the iPad.
This is $250. It's light, and apparently, according to their commercials, you can read it while in a bikini and stuff like that.
That's very exciting to me, the reading in a bikini, being able to hold it with one hand. But besides that, the amount that I could use, so yeah, maybe it would be, I can get all of my books onto the iPad, plus I can do anything else that I want to. And when I'm outside in my bikini holding my little Kindle pad, I don't want to have to be able to, not be able to, say, surf the web or get this application or do something else. I want to be able to do everything as I'm relaxing by the pool.
Well,
so it would still hit
Android,
the iPad.
Well, not the Android market, but you'll have the Amazon market, right, Seth? And you're smart about this stuff. How big a fork is this? And I don't mean that as a double entendre.
Right. Well, first of all, let's clear something up. You can't read this by the pool because it's not an e-ink screen, right? There's no e-ink in this tablet. That might come later in another one, but this is going to be probably AMOLED or whatever. So
explain that, Seth.
Well, essentially, the reason that commercial is so effective with the lady in the bikini is that the e-ink is not backlit, so the contrast is such that you can read it in bright sunlight and it's okay. And
like
the guy with the iPad,
right?
Right, exactly. And the guy with the iPad struggled because he had glare on his screen and the screen wasn't bright enough to, let him read it easily. So that was the Kindle to this point. One of the Kindle's selling points is that It's not an LCD, it's not an LED screen. You can read it outside. There's no glare.
With
So
huge battery life.
Immense battery life. Like you don't really have to charge those things hardly ever. You can plug it in and run it for weeks at a time, literally weeks. So just for the sake of clarity, that's that screen, to change there. In terms of the Amazon App Store and what you had asked about how big of a fork is it, obviously we only have MG Siegler's look at it to go on, and we've all been parsing it for a couple of days now, thinking about it. What it sounds like is that they've actually hit from his comments and from what I've read from other people, it sounds like Google did not want Amazon getting into Honeycomb and understood exactly what was going on here and saw that they were kind of taking it in their own direction. So I believe that this is built on 2.2. So this would be on top of Froyo, and it would be kind of forked in that direction. So right off the bat, you're not getting some of the Honeycomb advantages to the OS. It's built on Froyo, which is a little bit older.
On a phone OS.
I'm sorry?
On a phone OS.
It's a phone OS, right? And we've seen those other 7-inch tabs. The original Galaxy Tab was that same size, that same form factor. So if you've played with those, you kind of know that it's all right, but it's not quite there. It just kind of feels like a phone zoomed in a bit. So Amazon is essentially, now my comments in the past about stuff like the Grid 4 and the Grid 10, I'm really not a fan of skinning things because I feel like at some point there's going to be heavy UI inconsistency. Users are going to get confused, and updates and things like that are going to be tough because you've done so much on top of the operating system that you're not going to be able to really advance it. However, I think what Amazon's done is they've taken the core of the OS and branched off so sharply from the path that Android is on, is that it's going to be less of a skin and more of a customized version of the OS. So it's not just going to be, apps on top and the underpinnings are the same. It's going to be a completely different version of Android without those Google integrations, without the Google Market, without Gmail, because they have their Amazon App Store. And now everybody's kind of sitting there thinking, wow, that was really a great play for them. When it came out, everybody thought, that's a nice idea. Amazon's really good at selling stuff. Maybe they can sell apps better than Google can. Now it's all kind of coming into focus. And now Google, I think, is probably looking at it thinking, wow, we really don't want to just give them the whole cake. So you guys take what you got, and that's great. Honeycomb is going to be over here. So I don't really know. We won't know for a while how far it's forked. But from what I've heard and from what I've read, it sounds like less of a skin and more of a completely different OS built from the ground up for that tablet.
Like the Nook Color, maybe.
Right, more along those lines where you will not know that it is Android aside from being able to download apps from the Amazon App Store and run it. It sounds like it's going to be completely a differently customized experience.
And people love their Kindles. Like they trust Amazon. They know how to buy things, and they love to get their books. It's something that people really enjoy to do. They enjoy doing it on the Kindle, so kind of piggybacking on a design that's already popular and understood is a smart way for them to play up against Apple's iPad.
Yeah, there's a lot of brand loyalty there.
What's interesting to me, though, is that when Steve Jobs made that impromptu appearance on Apple's earnings call, and they asked him about smaller iPads, he said that they tried that. We often think that Apple has a lab filled with gadgets, and they try everything, and they have running versions of things years before they release them. But at 7 inches, he said exactly what we saw with the Galaxy Tab 7 and what we might see with the Nook and the Amazon tablet, is that it ends up being phone-class software. The UI is just not big enough to allow for the kind of apps that Apple wanted. They felt that 9.7 inches was the minimum you needed in order to force developers to rethink applications and make a new category of apps, and that's what they were after. While the Amazon right now is not really an iPad killer, it's like a Nook Color killer, because it's only so far going to be for really like focused on your media, your books, your TV shows, and once again only in the US, because 3 years later we still don't have Amazon MP3 in Canada. You don't have Amazon Video in most places, so it's an interesting play to me.
I think it's actually really smart because, again, when Steve was talking about it, he was talking about, interfacing, it being too small for your fingers if you're going to play games, if you're going to do other things. Well, if it is as 7 inches, just going to be mostly for media books, other things like that, just being the ability to scroll or just to be able to interface would be much easier. You're not going to be, playing a massive game onto it or really having to, well, maybe surf the web would be something interesting that you might want to sometimes zoom in and zoom out. But that might be a way where it doesn't actually bother you too much that it is only 7 inches.
My big question is right now, a lot of people, not maybe everybody, but a lot of people buy an iPad and a Kindle because the Kindle is so cheap. Would this degrade that? Would not as many people buy both? Would they either pick the iPad or pick the Kindle?
I think it's going to be a tougher choice for people if they're really invested in Amazon's Kindle library like that. I think that they might have to consider it a little bit more, but I think it'll come down to that form factor choice. Like right now, it's either a 7-inch or a 10-inch. So if you think that 7 is just too small for you, then you're going to go with the 10-inch and realize that you can get your Kindle books on there. But not to stray too far from this comment, one of the things we have to keep in mind too is that we always talk about Google's, bought Motorola, Google's doing all these things, but Google's business is ads. Well, Amazon's business is retail, and what they do is they sell a ton of stuff to a ton of people all day long. So one of the things I found most interesting about this is that even if it wasn't positioned as something against the iPad, one of the things that came up in that article was that they're considering, at least from what we've heard, giving a free Amazon Prime membership to people who buy this. And if you know anything about Amazon Prime, in a nutshell, it means you get super fast shipping, like 2-day shipping. There's no minimum on it, so you can get a single lollipop shipped to you like super fast. Like it's an amazing program. But the other thing is, in addition to all the retail advantages, you get free streaming of their movies. And while Amazon's library right now is nowhere near stuff like Netflix, they're building it, and they're probably brokering deals as we speak for all of that media stuff. So they may not really be positioning it as buy this instead of an iPad. They may be saying, hey, do you like us? Do you like buying stuff from us? Well, here's a way where you can completely live in our world, buy all this stuff, and guess what? We'll give you the movies for free, we'll give you the shipping for free, and all of that stuff kind of rolls in with it. So it's really not a play against the iPad. It's a completely different product that I could see people owning both, to be honest, like an iPad for a lot of things and this Amazon tablet because it's aggressively priced for a lot of other things.
You see, I can see people, if they have the Kindle, wanting to do more and then buying the iPad. I think that most people that buy an iPad will, if they, enjoy the interface of the iPad, will then just get a Kindle application and get their books that way. But I think that you have a really good point that they decided to market it as something completely separate, something that gave into the Amazon ecosystem, and I don't know. I'm kind of tempted, the idea of being able to buy one lollipop and have it 2 days later. Yeah.
You don't live in
a very,
America,
very
Georgia.
cool idea.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, we get nothing, but it's very, very tempting.
Yeah, Amazon Prime is amazing.
The thing that interested me, Rob in our chat room just said that about the 10-inch size, that Steve Jobs is not right about everything, and that's true. Like the G4 Cube is a huge example of that. There's others. But he was right a scary amount of time. I would say that he was right in consumer electronics probably more often than many people combined at other companies. And it's that 10-3-1 thing that we talked about, I think, on the first episode of Iterate, Seth. And yep. I forget who, someone wrote that up today. I forgot where I saw it. But they were saying, they were talking about Sasha Sagan's tweet where he said that Samsung now has, a 3.2, 3.5, 3.7, 4, 4.2, 4.5, 5, basically 13 different screen sizes, where Apple has 2. And you have to believe that Apple had all those screen sizes in the lab, and they willed it down to the 3 that they thought were the best contenders, and then the 1. Because just like the iPhone, there's only one iPad, so they had to figure out which screen size most people would want most of the time. Because selling just one form factor is really gutsy. It's risky. I mean, you can hit it big and get great economies of scale, or you can miss the target and not sell any, which is what we've seen with 7-inch tablets so far. So I think just saying that Steve's not always right kind of discounts the process that actually is not really Steve Jobs, but the way that all of Apple goes into researching internally this market.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, let's move on. We also have that iOS 5 Beta 7 has been updated. We're getting closer and closer, Renee.
It's interesting, and I'd like Seth's opinion on this too, because we only ever had 8 betas. We've usually had 4 or 5 betas. We had 8 betas for iOS 2, which was called iPhone OS 2 back then. But it seems to me like this isn't really 7 iOS 5 betas. It was like 4 or 5 iOS betas, and now these are iCloud and iTunes match betas.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different cycle. I think we've all kind of felt that, and it's very palpable in the fact that the betas have come in the past few weeks very, very quickly, it seems. And you're absolutely right. The first 4 or 5 were very much focused on the OS and the device, and now the past few, not too much has changed, and we're seeing little switches being thrown on and off. Just, a couple people let into the iTunes Match stuff, and then, the backup and the syncing and all that stuff is kind of coming online slowly. I wouldn't be surprised if we got more than 8 this time around, only because if they do another one each week or even one every other week until the new phone comes out, we're up to 7 now. It's going to be more than 8. I don't think we're going to see 8 and just stop. There's probably a lot of stuff that they want to make sure is absolutely ironclad before that release.
Because once you're dealing with the cloud, George, they say right on the beta that right now your cloud might get wiped as they do testing. And once you start trusting iCloud to hold your documents, to hold your contacts, to hold your apps, to hold your music, you really want that stuff to be reliable.
Yeah, no, they have to make sure that this is ironclad, because any mistakes that they make, people get really angry when I get angry when I lose one email. So think about losing a whole bunch of music or having things that upload, download issues. They're going to have to make sure, especially with the fact that Tim Cook is at the helm. So he's going to make sure that it's going to be completely smooth and easy when they actually go out. So, those that are testing this, though, I don't know, they must be a little bit more gutsy. Renee, how are you actually, how have you actually found with anything that you're doing? Was it easy?
You just made me laugh because you made me think that Tim Cook is there sitting at Apple HQ going, "This shall not be my mobile me."
Well, they make him one little tiny mistake, they're going to blame him. It's probably not going to be his issue and, not his fault. But Apple makes any blunders this way forward, it's going to look really, really poor on his watch.
Didn't you see Steve Jobs introduced us? He was the one on stage, not me. Stop it. Yeah, no, that's true. And it is interesting. Like, one of the things we've talked about is, for example, my iTunes ID is not the same as my mobile me ID, and Apple still hasn't got any way of combining your IDs together. So I'm going to have to choose at some point whether I use my iTunes account for iCloud and lose all the contact stuff that I have in mobile me, or have to bring it in somehow, or use my mobile me account and not have apps or music purchases associated with that. Or try to keep both going, which is obviously less convenient but more flexible. And it's that kind of thing that I think is still further away in the future for Apple. They're more concerned with push file up, store file down, push file up, store file down. And I don't see anything really, I don't really see if they have time to do the typical Apple polish before they release it.
Seth, do you feel the same way, that they're not going to be able to fully polish it all up before they get it down?
I would have a hard time thinking something with this kind of push behind it, and the fact that it's so well known. Like, I've heard people that are by no means tech people asking me, like, so what's this cloud thing Apple's doing? Like, people know about this. So it's not something that's only going to get geek backlash if it doesn't work. Like, there's a lot of people using iPhones, and there's a lot of people that are going to be flipping those little switches and settings as soon as they have a chance to do it, because they've heard about it and they are starting to learn about it, and they're like, wow, that's really cool. I can't wait to do that. So this is not going to be on the scale of Mobile Me, where, there were some vocal people, and that was a big mess, believe me. So I'm not trying to minimize that, but I think that the public at large was not as attuned to that failure as they would be to this. So I think that Apple is going to do everything they possibly can to make sure that this is not rolled out with any hiccups, especially since, the crosshairs are definitely on Tim Cook at this point, and I feel terrible for that guy, because
him and his million stock options.
Yeah, you know what?
Poor guy.
Money and stock and all that stuff is great, but the unfettered rage of the nerds and everyone else on the planet.
Geek rage is a horrible thing to deal with.
Well, so what I meant, Seth, though, is I think what I meant is, like, Apple has this habit of doing 80% of the things 100%. So what they do roll out, I think will work really well, but I don't think they're going to roll out every little feature we want in the first version of it, like account merging or all the data types we might want for a developer to be able to offer us. I think they're going to pick exactly what they think they can get ready and get that as good as they can and not worry about getting every feature in the Swiss Army knife in there.
Certainly. I think what you saw in the keynote is what we're going to see in the initial release, and there's going to be the basic nuts and bolts of everything working, and then I'm sure once it's under control and everything's moving the way it's supposed to and everything's rolled out, we'll start to see kind of, more trickles through APIs and things like that as developers start asking questions and saying like, hey, Dropbox sync is nice, but, can't we do this with iCloud? I think you're absolutely right, though. I think people should just be prepared for core functionality. Your photos go up and your apps get backed up and your pictures and your music, go back and forth the way you want them to.
Maybe your videos don't for now.
Yeah, I could see that happening, and did they ever say videos? I mean, it's photo stream, right?
Video stream is the service mentioned in the strings, but it is nothing that we have actually seen deployed yet.
So that's not something people have seen. That's something that coders and developers have poked around and seen. So no, I would not even expect that. I think pictures, anything you see in a string and a plist file, don't expect that to come.
It's string theory.
I think that it would be a smart idea for them to just make sure that they do say music, do it really well, make sure that it works, no one loses anything, they're able to do it, and then to kind of add on at a later date. I don't think that anyone's really going to be upset if you don't get all functionality at the right time, and I don't think that they would really be able to do it that way. So, just get my music, be able to go to the cloud properly, be able to stream my music from the cloud properly, and not have anything lost in the process, and everyone would be happy with that to begin.
Mm-hmm. One of the nice things, though, with this beta is that it finally answered the question about downstreaming or stream loading or whatever that fast-talking, markety weasel speak Apple was using to describe what iTunes Match did.
I really liked all the names you guys came up with. Stream loading, that was a good one.
Well, because they wouldn't they said it was downloading, but it acted like streaming. It's like Apple's like, do not believe your eyes. Or to quote Kevin, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it is a turkey.
I think this is probably semantics, right? I mean, they can't say it's streaming because the record companies would probably give birth to litters of kittens if they did, but with the agreements they have in place.
They've changed it now in the latest iOS 5 beta. It will play while it's downloading, but it doesn't just cache anymore. It actually downloads onto your device. So that unfettered internet rage that we spoke of a minute ago made Apple actually implement it properly. They probably got a nasty call from the music labels and said, "You promised us it wouldn't be downloading. You're undervaluing our content." And then Tim Cook had to take a deep Zen-in-Tech breath and say, fix it for now before we destroy these people. And they went in and they made it actually download. And the downside is you now have to manually manage your music. It won't just decache it or clear the cache when you run out of space. You'll have to go in probably and delete some of the things that you've downloaded in order to download other things.
I thought it was always supposed to do that, though. I thought it was always supposed to re-download your stuff. That was my understanding initially.
But the initial beta didn't do that. The initial beta was full of streamy goodness.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, we're talking about betas. When the final product rolls out, it's going to do what they said it was going to do, which is you push that little cloud button and it sucks the song down, and while it's coming, you can listen to it. But that's what they said it was going to do. So I don't know why people got all upset about it in the first place.
Do not confuse the internet with the facts, Seth Clifford.
No, I know. That's my first mistake.
And I'm writing down, suck down the music for this show title. Hang
on. Suck that song down.
Suck that song down.
So 9 to 5 Mac has come up with some other things that will be hopeful features for iOS 5, like the voice-controlled assistant, which for me I'm completely excited about. I think that could be really, really cool.
Renee, you might even update?
It might. You know what? If it worked really, really well, I would definitely update for that.
Well, first, this is from Mark Gurman, who's a little ninja.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And he found a bunch of strings, and now he's got some screenshots, too, that show the little microphone. And I think we spoke about this on a previous show, but they are shamelessly copying Android and some previous apps that I think even Google's mobile app did this, where you have the little microphone button and you'll be able to bring the phone up to your ear, and it'll use a combination of the proximity sensor and the accelerometer to detect that you are bringing the phone to your ear, which is something that Google Mobile got into trouble with because those were private APIs back then, and Apple later made them public. And now Apple's going to be using them with their built-in, nuance-powered Siri artificial intelligence voice control. But that's a good question, Georgia, because they haven't introduced it yet. No one at Apple has gotten up on stage and shown us what it could do. So we have to wait and see if it's going to be worth it for you.
Right. And if it works effectively, as long as I'm able to call people that I'm supposed to be calling at the right time, and the application, is able to understand exactly what I'm saying, that would be fabulous. Find My Friends. This freaks me out a little bit. That according to the code, users will be able to select other users to follow, and once a user follows another, they will gain access to information to the users, including perhaps their location.
Well, so that's the basic part. I mean, that's like Google's Latitude service. It's just a way for you to tell a friend, hey, I'm at the coffee shop, get over here. But the interesting part is that you might, like, let's say you hate location and you're privacy focused, you might be able to share your photo stream or eventually your video stream or other things with friends. The only question here is it looks like Apple might have been working on this a long time ago, and it's no way to tell if it's just not complete yet or they abandoned it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's the one thing about, privacy and being able to track people the same way as having to know exactly where chat is at all times so we can steal his tech. It kind of is a little bit worrisome to me, that type of thing. I love the idea of being able to share photos, but if I so wished, I could already kind of do that just by emailing them. That would be easier to just be able to have, photos in one location that all your friends can kind of deal with. But I don't know. I don't want really people to know where I am at all moments. Seth?
I totally agree. I think that location services on phones are one of the coolest things ever, but I don't feel the need to broadcast my constant updated location, nor do I care where everyone else is. So if that's something that's coming, I'm going to be flipping that to the left for off, because it doesn't interest me at all. I gave up on Foursquare because it just became a task. And if it's happening in the background, then I'm always going to be thinking in the back of my mind, like, wait, do I really want people to know I'm here right now? Even if it's nowhere, it's not necessary. But then again, there's some people that really like that and want to share every single thing about their lives, no matter how boring, with everyone on the planet.
Well, that's one of the kind of things that could end up going awry. Like, really, with phone safety being so iffy as it is, it's something that is, I don't know, if taken control by some nefarious creature, might not be something that I would be thrilled with.
At least
so
with
I
Apple,
like the idea of the photo streams, videos. That's very cool. Not really the map locations.
you can hear Apple already marketing this though, going because like unlike Google, who makes their money off location-based advertising in part, although Apple's dabbled unsuccessfully in it with iAd, Apple really doesn't care where you are. It just wants to sell you its shiny boxes, where people's problem with Google originally, Google Buzz was non-discriminant in who it shared your location with. And that was just a design oversight at launch. In Latitude, you know, people had the choice of who they wanted to share with. This, I think, is sort of the same thing. Like maybe your grandparents aren't savvy enough to have you email photos. You can go to their house, get them an iPad, set up their slideshow to pull from your photo stream, and suddenly all the pictures you put in your album called Kids, Oma and Opa or Nona and Nono get to look at without having to touch a button.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that that's really going to be something that will be useful, and I would be down for. Just maybe not that. And what about the Apple Diagnostics Service?
Yeah, what is that all about?
That just looks like if you have a problem, they can send you an email saying, click here, and that'll launch a web app that will let you send diagnostic information to Apple so they can help figure out what problem your phone is having without you having to go to an Apple store.
You see, that would be something, A, I would be interested in, B, I wouldn't be able to be jailbroken in order to do that.
You would. They would probably just write back going, call us when you're not jailbroken. Or denied forever.
I don't know, but you wouldn't be able to use the diagnostic service if you were jailbroken. Is what I'm saying. So that actually might be a reason why some people might choose not to jailbreak.
No Apple Store for you. 1 year.
I'd have to unjailbreak.
You
I
banned.
re-virginize, jailbreak again afterwards, and then I find out that the jailbreak was the issue.
Hey, we don't know if iOS 5 is going to turn you away from jailbreak and get you back on Team Pure. We don't know yet.
I seriously doubt it, but
To be
who
determined.
knows? Right, Seth, how about you? Are you going to jailbreak after?
Geez, that's a tough question. Honestly, I've been on the beta for so long, and I don't really miss my jailbreak stuff as much now because I guess I've just kind of come to terms with the fact that this is how it is. But I think that once things are ironed out and stable, I think I probably have to because I'm just a chronic tinkerer and I love just flipping through Cydia and seeing that stuff. And there's so many cool things that have come out since the beta that I'm like, wow, I really want to do that. Oh, it's a jailbreak app. So I think
Right.
I'm gonna have to. It's in my DNA to mess around.
I just turn off my phone. It turns off like a little old television screen, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Every single time I turn off my phone, like, oh,
See, I'm
that is
Captain
cool.
Default. I reinstall and reload my phone and clean install it so often that I don't have time to tweak it because I'll be erasing it in a couple days anyway, and I just got lazy. And now everything is just pure Apple default because I always know where everything is, and if I erase it, I still basically have the same phone the next day.
Yeah, and I got to that point too, but then there was an app. I think it was called Data Deposit that let you actually a jailbreak app that let you sync your app states to Dropbox, and you could sync jailbreak app states too. So it was awesome. You would just kind of go down the list and check all the apps you wanted and sync them up to Dropbox, and then you could do whatever you wanted with your phone and nuke it, and then basically reinstall the app, log back in, and they would just come whooshing back down to your phone. So it was actually one of the things that made jailbreaking easier. But again, I never tinkered as far as Georgia does with the theming and things like that because, man, it just makes your phone so sketchy. So there was like the two apps I needed, and that was it. But I've gotten to where you are too, Renee, where it's like, you know what? I'm going to need to restore this probably in a couple days. Let's just keep it the way it is.
Lazy works. Lazy's good. How many times can I just sit on the sofa and do nothing? Perfect.
Yeah, seriously, lazy does work because your phone usually keeps working if you don't mess around with it.
Yeah.
We also spoke about the iTunes, the downstreaming, stream thising, not having to, and then actually having to manually manage your storage on your device, which is just seems horrific to me. And I can't see that they would decide to have us have to do that. I don't know, Renee. Do you think that they're going to leave it like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly what Seth said, that when it's going to be like the App Store or like how the music store is for people who aren't, outside the US. You'll just have the iCloud button, you'll hit it, and it'll re-download the music. And then when you want to get rid of it, you'll delete it. And I think that's the only thing Hollywood is allowing them to do. And Apple, it's actually interesting. I went back and I listened to that D8 conference interview with Steve Jobs again, and it's a really insightful insightful interview. And I'm not sure if it was in that one or another one I listened to, but they asked him why some things sucked. And he said, look, the only option is to have nothing or to do the sucky thing that the music industry wants. And in order for us to have content to sell you, we have to sometimes do things that even we don't like. And I think this is one of those things. It's less elegant. It requires more user management, but it is all that they're allowed to do for now.
Well, I'm hoping that they end up I guess for some people they would be more happy with being able to do everything manually, but for me, I like it just to be taken care of. And
Blame Hollywood. Blame Hollywood.
Apple has promoted Eddie Q to Susie Q to Senior VP of Internet Software and Services.
Nice.
Hooray!
Yay!
is.
Yay for him!
He's
Congratulations,
up on the
Eddie.
screen now, people. Yeah. Well, he's an interesting
Seth,
guy
is that going to
because
change anything at all for us?
he is
For-
old school. He's been there for a long time. When Mobile Me started to crash and burn, and Steve Jobs had that famous town hall meeting when he walked the halls of Apple with a flamethrower and told them to hate themselves, and reportedly fired the ex-Microsoftie who'd been there. He brought Eddie Q on to run it, and Eddie Q built the iTunes Store and the App Store, and everything golden that Apple has touched on the internet. I don't know if he was associated with Ping, Georgia, so I'll just preempt that right now. Has been on Eddie Q's watch, and now remember we spoke about Voltron, how the top line of Apple management was Voltron because they would combine to form almost like Steve Jobs. He has bumped people off that top row, and he is now there alongside Scott Forstall, Tim Cook, and whose name am I forgetting, Seth?
Forstall, Cook, and well,
I'll
great.
look it up.
Now I don't know either.
You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Well, he's been with Apple for 22 years, so I think that it's great that he gets promotion. He's old school Apple. He's
Johnny
handled,
Ive, sorry.
you know, so, and he dealt with the Apple Online Store, which is amazing. iTunes Music, the App Store. So in that way, yeah, pretty great. But is it going to make any difference really to the end user? No, but at least it doesn't create any ripples in the force. So we're all happy.
And he only got 100,000 shares, not a million like Tim Cook.
Well,
That's still nothing to sneeze at.
CEO.
Yeah, Seth, it's just you start counting the millions after a while.
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, Netflix stock has gone down after Starz has left, and they haven't been able to come to a deal yet. So we're going to be losing Well, they're going to be losing Starz next February.
Yep.
And yeah, they wanted more money. They wanted $300 million per year to renew their agreement.
No, Netflix offered them more than $300 million, and Starz turned that down. They wanted to be a premium tier. They wanted us to have to pay more for Netflix in order to get Netflix with Starz, because they don't care how much Netflix pays. Remember, we undervalue their content. They want us to pay more so that we are less inclined to get rid of our cable by getting Netflix.
So they think that they would make more than $300 million per year if they ended up having a premium service that was an extra $8 per month.
No, see, because they don't think that, because you're thinking in a rational world, and you have to stop doing that. You have to think in Hollywood terms. They don't care about how much money they make. They care about how much money we're forced to pay. They want the value of their content, and they care that we don't leave cable, which is lucrative for them, to go to Netflix, which they don't trust yet as being a replacement stream for that business.
So even if they would make more money taking the $300 million, they feel that their content would be considered more valuable if we pay a specific premium just for that, even if they end up making less money in the end.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
I'd just like to add a PSA. Please watch Spartacus before they take Starz away from Netflix.
Yes.
Oh, that's so sad. That's so
it's
true.
not for kids. It's so not for kids. So understand
but
that.
It is one of the best shows.
Yeah, don't watch it with your family.
Spartacus makes Starz. Like, really? Without Spartacus? Anyways.
It is such a smorgasbord of sex and violence that
violence,
there's nothing like it.
gore.
Yeah,
it's fabulous.
Watch it on your iPad or your Apple TV or your iPhone before it Starz. Starz is gone and takes the Karate Kid with it. Get him a body bag, Johnny! Yeah.
He's had enough, Renee.
I'll tell you when he's had enough, Seth. Sweep the leg, Georgia. You have a problem with that, Ms. Georgia?
I don't actually. I would have swept the leg. Casting calls are going out for Facebook for the iPad commercial. So there we go. Go ahead. Head on out.
Did you apply, Georgia?
I'm definitely, of course, I'm a lover for Facebook when it comes to television.
Do you want to be Lily, a lead female, 25 to 40? Oh, you're far too young. All ethnicities, lead actor in a web commercial showing the benefits of a Facebook app by using an iPad. The character is stylish. The character is stylish,
moderately tech-savvy, and sociable. I think that I missed, but that's okay.
You are stylish. You're way too tech-savvy and completely antisocial. So those last two, you're under and overqualified.
Right, and then Seth would probably steal the position from me anyways, and then I'd be all upset.
You can do the Hello Cupid face. You'll definitely win.
That's true.
Yeah, should I go out for that? Just show up and be like, "What? I'm your Lily. Stop looking."
As long as you videotape it, we can put it on the blog afterwards. I am completely happy.
Nice.
Yeah, that would actually be awesome. What a great video.
You're a daisy if you do, Seth.
There's also an app, Remember 9/11, with the 9/11 memorial, past, present, and future for the iPad. how much of this goes to help for people that have lost family members in the attacks is what I actually am interested in.
It's a free app, right?
Have they
I don't think it's
disclosed?
a. They're
So
not
you can't,
charging
and you
for it.
can't, and Apple doesn't have any applications that you're allowed to make donations with, right? They're
No.
completely nixed on any applications that you can give to charities or any other such thing, right, Renee?
Yeah, as far as I know, you're not. I guess they don't want to police what's a real charity and what's just some guy making a charity app to get a lot of money on the side, which would totally happen in our current internet age. You'd have the Nigerian social services app where you could donate to Prince Abdullah's fund to regain his ancestral oil mine, and Apple would quickly find that unmanageable. So they've just blanket. I don't believe there's any charity apps.
Yeah, no, because I would be more interested if the money of which I paid towards the app, yeah, the people in the chat room are saying that the app is free, but I would much rather having an application that I paid and the money went to, to help people that were there. But it is a memorial and it has exclusive interviews with the creator of the memorial. It has 40 videos and over an hour of original content, so site tours, museum updates, and animations, 400 high-res photographs. And yeah, if it's something that's meaningful to you, take a check of that out and let us know.
Yep.
We also have up our picks of the week for September 3rd.
Yeah, this is something that Liana puts together every week. A bunch of us get together and we all pick an app or a website or a service or something cool that we want to share with the Tippy Nation.
And Seth has the one for the blackout alarm that he used himself when he was worried that he was going to get flooded.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I wrote a whole article about this. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where I knew it was going to be my pick for that week because it was super useful. And the more I thought about what actually happened in the moment that I got the app and found it and used it was that, to very briefly sum up the post, it's we can look at numbers and charts and marketing statistics and all this stuff and have heated fanboy arguments as to which platform is better, but all of this stuff is useless if we're not using it to somehow make our lives either better, more enjoyable, more functional, etc. So it was just one of those things where I took a step back and was like, wow, you know what? This was one of those moments where technology, for all of its foibles and aggravation, just really came through for me. And it was just cool. It was a cool moment, and I just kind of wanted to just share it. And it made for a great pick of the week.
See, I pick something unless you complain better.
Right. How to complain better to Apple, right, Renee?
Yeah. So now, thanks, Seth. You made me. I feel real. Scratch my surface. What do you find? More surface.
Well, sometimes you need to relax and be able to sleep, and sometimes you need to be able to vent.
Yes.
So you get the full balance.
Cool.
And check it out. So probably the complaint department at Apple goes straight into trash, but
Dev null. But I mean, there's cool picks here from Ali's got a picked Instapaper. Ali Flowers picked Groupon. Chris Oldroy picked Luminance. I picked apple.com/feedback. Chris Vitek picked Balloons, or Vitek, sorry. Balloons TD4 HD. Liana picked Spy Mouse. Our reader's choice was from Heather. I'm going to mess up her name, Melnick, who picked eKey. And every week we have a whole new set of picks. So you just go to tippy.com/apps and you can find that and a whole bunch of other really, really good app content.
And going on with natural disasters, daily tip, I did one on how to let your iPhone alert you to power failures, which with the way that the weather has been treating people is something that is always good to know. We also have how to...
because Seth managed to get his tip reference twice in 1 week. I don't know how that happened.
I had nothing to do with it. That's all you guys.
Might have been a good tip.
And we also have a tip on how to export your iPhone, iPad UI elements to Photoshop from Photoshop.
And that's,
this is kind of
so
cool,
weird.
Renee.
I'm calling shenanigans because both co-hosts of Iterate got big how-tos up this week, and they're both excellent, and I think they must have been planned. It's like calling each other in the morning to see what clothes they're wearing and coordinating. This one was from Mark Edwards, and if you're working on an interface for iPhone or iPad, it's a great tip on how to get those elements out of Photoshop and into your device.
As it turns out, Mark and I were wearing the same shirt when we typed our stuff.
Nice.
There we go. Did it say meh?
Yeah,
Four
sure.
stars.
1 star.
One
Don't you
star.
wish
One
Seth, don't
star,
you wish
yeah.
sometimes you could rate the users? Like if a user leaves a bad snarky review for one of your apps, you could actually rate that user.
Oh yeah, that'd be
I think that's
great.
a brilliant idea. They could
Pressed
rate
wrong
people
button,
down.
1 star,
They
fail. Meh.
only come and complain. They have
Yeah.
never rated anything more than 1 star. Should make a difference.
Kept saying it should be free. Fail.
Yes, only buys cheap apps. This person is cheap.
Nice. Now, see, Seth's going to actually go build that in.
It's gonna- we're
There's
gonna.
an app. There should be an app for that.
Yeah, we'll build a whole
User
platform
ratings.
for it. That'd be great.
And from the forums, iPad 3. Is the screen size change possible? It's a really good debate, actually, that's going on about, if they would change the screen size for the iPad 3.
And
So-
our forums, you go to forums.tippy.com, they are rocking and rolling. We have forums there for almost everything. And just like you said, we've got really excellent discussions going on there. And it's a big question because developers would tell you, no, Apple's never going to change it because it would make us lose our minds. But at some point, Apple is going to have to, or might just consider making a different caliber device, and then it's going to be a question they have to face.
Right, and what exactly would happen with that, and what would be, how would the inference go through it? We also have, just ideas from a new iPad owner, which is really nice actually, because I've had the iPad for so long, and I forget what it was like when I first got it and got to use it. Which is really, really cool. So you can take a look at that. And if you're a new iPad owner, if you've had it for a while, you can take a peek and put in your own comments. And other people that have just tried out different types of tablets have also given their ideas in comparison to an iPad, what it's like.
Yep. Because there's always going to be a market for not iPad. We have to remember that no matter how big the iPad gets, there will always be some people who just don't want it or just don't want an Apple thing or want a Google or a Microsoft thing. So, that will always be the not iPad, not Apple market.
Exactly that.
Yep.
Well, I think that we have covered most of all of the news for this week. I would like to say thank you so much, Seth, for joining us.
Thank you, as always, for having me on. It was very exciting with our new video thing happening here.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
very, very cool. So if you haven't checked us out live, the videos will be up. So you can take a check of them. Should be a little bit more fun. And also join us live because it's so much cooler than not. How can we find you, Seth?
You can find me on Twitter at Seth Clifford. You can find me on the Tippy shows with you guys. You can find me on Iterate with Renee and Mark Edwards of Bajango. And if you'd like to see some of the work we do, you can visit our site. We're Nickelfish, and the site is nfidm.com.
Thank you so much, Seth. And Renee, thank you again. Another week, another podcast.
No, thank you. And thank Marcus for directing this awesome video debut.
Yeah, I have to say, this is pretty sweet. It totally changes everything and no commercials. So one more reason to definitely join us live.
Oh, it is chock full of win.
How do we find you, Renee?
You can find me at Renee Ritchie on Twitter. You can also find me www.tippy.com and zenandtech.tv.
Awesome. And I'm Georgia, and you can find me on the website www.tippy.com, also on Twitter at GeorgiaTippy, and also on Zen and Tech, which will be coming up right after the break. I'd like to thank everyone, our awesome people that came live and come every single week. You guys are the best. You can reach all of us at Tippy via email at podcast@tippy.com. Leave a comment when the podcast goes live. We're here every Sunday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. British Summertime. And of course, our companion show, Renee.
iPhone Live. It is with you same bat time, same bat channel on Wednesday nights.
www.tippy.com/live for all our podcasts, including iPhone Live, iPad Live, Zen and Tech, Super Functional, Iterate, and more. See mobilenations.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to all our shows in iTunes and leave a rating. Helps when the show goes live and means a lot to us. Much love. Thanks to the Tippy iPad Accessory Store for sponsoring the podcast and everyone who showed up, and especially for Marcus for doing the awesome video switching and video feeds. So please check this out.
And I just want to point out that this network has a full schedule. You can get the Palmcast on Tuesday nights, our show on Wednesday nights, the Android Central show on Thursday nights. crackberry.com and WP Central whenever Kevin and Dan damn well feel like it. So whenever you are ready, we have stuff for you.
Yeah. We're just rocking it out.
Yep. That was
There we
awesome.
go.
I'm so happy with this tech.
Yeah, this worked well.
Yeah, I have to get a better camera. My poor little crappy fuzziness.
Is that what we're going to officially call it? The poor little crappy fuzziness?
Yeah.